All right, hello everyone. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as promised, with today being Monday, the 17th of September, 2018, we're going to go into a BitBucket exercise today. And I've decided to actually do the one that's online. Now, before I do that though, if you do go out to Atlassian, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, .com/git/tutorials. You don't need the HTTP, etc. I don't think. This is what you're going to find. Become a Git guru. Notice, learn Git with BitBucket Cloud, learn about code reviews, branching, etc. Beginning stuff, getting started, collaborating, migrating, and advanced tips. Well, I grabbed this Learn Git with BitBucket Cloud, and that particular URL is right here. So again, atlassian.com/git/tutorials/learn-git-with-bitbucket-cloud. So I've got this both online here, and I've also saved it as a Word document. All right, so I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. As you can see, these are the objectives here. We want to be able to create a Git repository, copy the Git repository and add files to it, pull changes from a Git repository out on BitBucket Cloud. So in other words, pull from the server and use a Git branch to merge a file. So as mentioned here, the objective is to both learn the basics of Git and basically start to learn about BitBucket. It's a little hokey, for lack of better words. It says your mission is to learn the ropes of Git by completing the tutorial and tracking down all of your team's space stations. Yeah, that's what it is. Commands covered in the tutorial. I'm not going to read these. You can see them in here. These are all covered. All right. Now, the tutorial does expect that you have Git loaded and you have a BitBucket account. That shouldn't be any kind of problem because we did load Git and we created our BitBucket account the other day. All right. And don't worry about this stuff. This is for another class. So now again, this is all done under the auspice or under the guise that we are a BitBucket Space Station Administrator. Okay? So it's a little hokey, but I think it's a pretty good exercise. They'll tell you to name something, name it something. I'm not going to name it that because we are going to go over this again in class as a class today, and I'll then use those names then. So, says we're the new administrator. We are to be organized. When we make files, we want to keep them in one place and keep them shareable with other people. With BitBucket, this means adding everything to a repository. Let's create one. What I kind of like amongst other things in here is the fact that the authors branch off once in a while and they give you some different stuff, such as what you see right here. Some fun facts about repositories. And for lack of better words, a repository is kind of, really, it's like a folder that holds whatever it is you need it to hold. You have access to all files in your local repository, whether you're working on one file currently or multiple files. You can view public repositories even if you don't have a BitBucket account, as long as you have the URL that's associated with that repository. Each repository belongs to a user account or a team. For the user account, which is the way we're doing it, that user owns the repository. If it's a team, the team owns it. The owner is the only person who can delete it. Typically, if you have a team, you set up an administrator who can delete the repository. One code project can consist of multiple repositories across multiple accounts, or it can be pretty much what we're going to do, a single repository from a single account. Note that each repository has a size limit of 2 gig, but because of all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes, the author here recommends that the repository never be larger than a gig. All right. So initially, the repository we create in BitBucket is going to be empty without any code in it. That's what you'd expect. It's kind of like creating a brand new folder and not putting anything in it yet. The author says that's okay because you will start adding some files to it soon. This BitBucket repository will be the central repository for your files, which means that others can access that repository if you give them permission to do so. We're not talking about that right now. After we create the repository on our BitBucket account, we'll copy it to our local system. That way, as it says, you can update it from one repo and transfer the changes to the other, meaning that we can either update on our local repository and push it to the Git repository on BitBucket, or we can update the one that we have on the server and then pull that from there to our local repository. So, do the following to create your repository. From BitBucket, click the plus sign in the global sidebar and select repository. All right. Again, I'm just going to follow the steps that they have given right here. BitBucket displays the Create New Repository page. Take some time to review the dialog's contents. With the exception of repository type, everything you enter on this page can later change. So, other than the type, which I believe is going to be under the advanced settings, you can change everything later. You'll notice that's what I want. I am the owner. It is going to be a private repository. Include a README. No, I'm just going to leave it off. The version control, we should always have Git. Unless you want to go and learn Mercurial yourself, I don't know anything about it. Under the advanced settings, we need to give it a name, and we'll do that in just a minute. In fact, the name they tell us to give this so I've been exploring the new repository. Git for the type, boom, boom. Click Create Repository. BitBucket creates your repository and displays its overview page. All right, I'm just going to call this class demo. It will be private. Again, no README. This is a Git slash BitBucket demo based off of the project on URL. I'm always in favor of giving, we're giving kudos where there should be given. All right, forking, yeah, private forks. Project management, I'm not going to worry about it. The language, notice we can choose a boatload of them. For right now, I don't think I'm going to choose anything. I don't know what HipChat is. So I'm going to click Create Repository. All right. And then it says, let's put some bits in your bucket. So take some time to explore the new repository you've just created. You should be on the repository's overview page. And as you can see, we are. All right. Get started the easy way, etc. There it is. Now, as you go through this, what you see on here may not be identical to what we have, because it can change over time, but that's fine. All right. Click plus from the global sidebar for common actions for the repository. Click items in the navigation sidebar to see what's behind each one, including settings to update the repository details. To review available shortcuts, press the question mark key on your keyboard. When you click the commits option on the sidebar, you'll find that you have no commits because you have not yet created any content for the repository. All right. When you click the commits option in the sidebar, okay, right there. There's nothing to do, in other words. Your repository is private, and you have not invited anyone to the repository, so the only person who can create or edit the repository's content right now is you, because you're the owner of the repository. All right? So, copy your Git repository and add files. Now that you have a place to add and share these files from in this mythical space station, you need a way to get it from your local system. To set that up, you want to copy the BitBucket repository to your system. Git refers to the process of copying a repository as cloning the repository. When you clone it, you create a connection between BitBucket, the BitBucket server, which is called the origin, and your local system. Now, it says you are about to use a whole bunch of Git and non-Git commands from a terminal. If you've never used the command line before, learn where to find it at the Git command crash line course. So if I open that up, not sure exactly where that is, but we can do this. We can say Git command line crash course. See if Atlassian has got, well, we've got this from Free Code Camp. Let's see, do we have anything here? Atlassian.com Git crash course. Okay. Well, I don't know if this is it or not. But here is a command line crash course. You'll notice it's from freecodecamp.org, 221 likes, 6 dislikes. Don't know. Have not looked at it. Don't know if it's on here or not. Doesn't look like it. Okay, I don't want to get too far off topic here. So, step 1, clone your repository to your local system. Open a browser window from the terminal at your desktop. After opening the terminal window, do the following. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to come up to our desktop right here. All right, I'm going to do it in a little bit different order than the way that they do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right mouse click here, do a new folder, and I'm going to call this repos. Repo is short for repository, so ideally this folder can hold all of our repositories. So I now have repos right here. All right, so in the article here they tell you to open a browser window and then navigate to the home directory and then create the directory from there. Now, is there a difference? No, and just to show you, should be able to delete this. Right mouse click, choose Git Bash here, All right, this is following now exactly what they're showing in the book. Make this bigger, okay? And they're telling us to do a CD to right there, which is basically our root. Well, I actually want mine on the desktop, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm going to do a CD to desktop. All right. Make dir repos. And if you don't know this, this basically is the Linux equivalent of what we just did when we right mouse clicked, chose new, and told it to create a new folder, and we called it repos. But just to show you it from here, which again is fine. Oops, well, that wasn't good. Paste. Well, that was pretty interesting. All right, let me close this. I don't even have to close it. Let me just make dir repos. There. Okay. All right, so I have done that. From the terminal, update the directory you want to work on. So in other words, make that the current directory. Just so you see this, there's repos, but it's not the one I created. All right, it's the one that was it wasn't the one I created before by right mouse clicking, choose new, and choosing folder. In other words, it's the one I just created. All right, so now I can come back here, and where am I? I'm at the desktop, so I can CD to repos. All right, and if I type in ls, it comes back with nothing. ls is a Linux command that basically says list all of my files. All right, then go back to BitBucket and go back to our repository. All right, so I'm back at our repository. Click the plus button on the global sidebar and select Clone this repository. BitBucket displays a pop-up clone dialog. By default, it sets the protocol to HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, Secure Socket Layer, or SSH, and I don't remember what that stands for, depending on your settings. For the purposes of this tutorial, don't change the default protocol. So mine is HTTPS, which is, I think, what I'd want anyway. Copy the highlighted clone command. So grab this and copy it. From your terminal window, paste the command you copied from BitBucket and press return. So go back to here. Again, we just did an ls. You saw that it's empty, nothing up my sleeve, as they say. Paste. Okay, hit enter. And now it's cloning it. It shouldn't take too much time just because of the fact that there's nothing in it. Now I've got to remember my password. That's actually the hardest part of this. An error occurred while sending the request, which may mean that I put in an incorrect password. So I'm going to pause for just a second, try it again, and see if I can figure out, unfortunately, what my password is. I apologize for that. In fact, you know what? I'm at 20 minutes. Let's just break this up into a couple different lessons. So I'll stop right here. So I'm going to call this BitBucket Demo Part 1. All right, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes.